Hello guys, welcome to my new video. So in this series, as you know, we are working on routing in Angular, and the purpose of this video is how we can subscribe the params in Angular routing. So far we have set up routing in Angular, as you know, and also some of you guys had coded with me too. That's very great opportunity to learn and code along with me. If you have any question, you can ask me in comments. I will definitely reply to your questions. And so far we have set up routing. We learned how we can retrieve parameters from the URL. Like you see, if you see my screen, we are retrieving this 10 and this Sam. If I write 1 here and if I write Alex here, we can get these two ID and the name of user in our application too. So that is working perfectly fine. But in some scenarios that could happen, we could subscribe the params also. That could be the scenario in our application, and we can break this existing code. How we can break it, I'll show you. So in our user component, I'm going to add horizontal line, and then I am adding a router link. We are passing params, so I'm using braces around this router link, so we can pass multiple parameters to that directive. And how we'll pass that, we'll see that. And here I am just writing load max and ID is 2. So I'm using in first parameter I am passing is the name of this route. That should be absolute path. Remember you guys, this slash is very much important. We should if we do not add this slash, then browser will consider it as it will concatenate this component with existing URL. So that's we do not want that. So that's why we want absolute path. I will just show you in example 2 later when we will just reload the page. We'll load the page. So the second parameter we can pass here is ID. So I'm passing 2, and third parameter is the name. So when we load this application, you see the link is added and load max. So it is calling, if you see the bottom left of my screen, so you see there will be a URL included there. So it is saying user to max, which when I hit that link, that URL should be in the browser, and also the content should also be changed. So I am clicking that, and you see the URL has been changed. It is 2 and max in the URL, but still on the page, on the HTML, the DOM is not updated at all. So that is the problem in our current scenario. We cannot update our DOM if we are on a same router link. If we come on that link from another page or from another component, then of course the data which is passed in the URL will update the DOM also. So that will happen for sure. But if we are on the same DOM, guys, this is very much important to understand. If we are on the same component, then if we want to change the URL like I am doing here, then it will not update our DOM. And another thing I have mentioned about this slash thing, if I just remove this slash, and now we can see what the URL is being set when we hover over our anchor tag. So page is loaded. I have just hovered it, and you see it is saying localhost users /2/max. Then again it is concatenating user /2/max. So that is the difference between absolute path and the relative path. So this slash is very much important. Sometimes the developers really spend a lot of time to trying to find out what was really the issue. So this is important to understand concept of between these two paths. One is absolute path and one is relative path. Absolute path starts from the server name. After the server name, like it is localhost 4200, and the relative path starts start right after the URL what is being set right now in the browser. So I'm just going to change it back, and now we'll use absolute path. And now the problem is we are not able to update our DOM. So I'm just writing again, I'm writing some other name, Alex and ID1. So it is Alex and ID1 as I have reloaded the page, and we can see that in DOM. But on clicking that, our objective is DOM should change. Right now when we click on that, only URL changes, DOM is not updating. So for that we have to make some changes in our component. What are the changes? We have to get the parameters, and will be a slightly different how we get that in our last section. So we will use router object, which we have created. You can see that in constructor. So in this router object, now we will use params. So remember one thing guys, in our last video we accessed basically snapshot, router.snapshot, you see that, and now we are directly accessing params. So what is the difference between these two? The param is basically an observable. The observable is a very vast subject in Angular, and of course I will make a separate series for all the observables, but for here I will just let you know in short that observable are used for asynchronous operations or asynchronous tasks. So that lives in the memory. If we want to I mean, of course these observables come from a third party, but these observables are heavily used in the Angular, and this is very much important to understand the concept of these observable, how these observable work. So in this case params is observable. So every observable keeps watching the changes which we have subscribed. So now we are going to subscribe this observable, so it will keep watching the changes in the URL. If URL changes, then of course this observable subscription will do the action what we want it to do. So here I'm just subscribing that. Every observable will work only if we subscribe that. Without subscription, observable will not work. This is a core concept of observable, guys. Remember that every observable should be subscribed if we want them to work. So we have subscribed that. So in this subscription we can pass certain functions, we can write certain functions which will work based on the changes we want, and all the logic will come under this subscription method. So I'm going to define a function. This is ES6 function, and in this function I am going to pass params, and the type of that will be params. And remember that guys, this type param should be imported from Angular route also. So I have imported that type param. This contains basically the object. This is basically data type, and it will have the structure of object what we are going to use in our parameters. So we have added this data type. Now in this function we can just do our logic. So here actually when parameters changes, we want to update the ID of user, and we also want to update the name of user. So this is what we want, and for that we will do params, then ID, and of course same thing we will do for name of the user. We will write here name, and now we have subscribed to our params. So this is how we can subscribe an observable, and once we subscribe those observable, that will be reactive to all the changes which happens and immediately respond to us. So we have set up this observable and also subscribe it. Let's see if it works in and updates our DOM when we click on the link or not. So we are here, and you see guys, in a URL we have ID1 and we have name Alex, but on the link we want to update the ID and we want to update name also, and we have seen that it was updating only just in the URL. It was not updating DOM at all. So now after the observable subscription, it should update both URL and also it should update the DOM. So I will click on that, and here we go. You see, we have changed that ID and name in the URL, and also DOM is also updated. So that's how we can subscribe those params. These are the built-in observable in Angular routing, and we can subscribe that, and those after the subscription the DOM will immediately change. This is the power of Angular, how we can subscribe the parameter. So guys, for the convenience of you guys, I have added the code of my video in the link below, and you can just go through description and download code from my GitHub handler, and you can run that on your local machine as always, and you can code along with me. It will be great pleasure working with you guys. And also if you have any comments, just feel free to ask anything. I will just immediately reply you guys. So guys, stay tuned. There's a lot more coming up in my next videos. I will tell you briefly about Angular and everything about the Angular, and there will be a great journey moving forward. Thank you so much guys.